Hey guys, and welcome to the third Big Footy Lions podcast. With me I have Bertman and Patful fan Kez.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
To start this week off, we'll jump to the Lions win over the Gold Coast, how wonderful that was. Bertman, what's your thoughts on that?
It was a really good win. Good to get the win against the Gold Coast in the Q class, but the only thing that was really frustrating was the four quarters effort. Obviously we overran them in the last, but I thought at times they could really jump on us and beat us, and the inconsistency is, as a fan and as a player, I'm sure, is really, really difficult. But if against North we can be more consistent throughout the game, we don't let them in as often as we let Gold Coast at times, I think will be a much smoother ride for us.
Yep, what about your thoughts on that, Kez?
The thing that really annoyed me about that game, apart from the third quarter, was once again Gold Coast managed to get the jump on us first thing at the first bounce, and they pretty much won that clearance and went forward first. So I reckon that's something that really needs to be fixed up, because that's getting annoying.
Yeah, definitely that first just bounce of the game, the momentum just swings to whichever team wins its favour is very important, and we seem to be losing that very often. I can see where you're coming from. Who was, in your opinion, our best players on the weekend?
On the weekend, I thought Staker obviously really lifted when we needed him to, which I think helped us get over the line in. I thought Brown was quite good. I thought Maloney was actually doing quite well before he got subbed off, and then Lester when he came on. But I think the main standouts from the whole game more were Brown, Staker. I thought Zorko was good at times. I thought Mays was really, really good. Hanley, Redden was good at times. And I gave Goose my 5 votes on the voting because I thought he was by far our best player. He played a really, really good game.
Alright, that's brilliant. Kez, what about your thoughts on our players of the weekend?
Stakes was definitely up there for me. It was good to see Jonathan Brown get himself back into a bit of form and actually kick straight. I love Daniel Merritt in the forward line. I love having a player like him who's so versatile and we can just throw him anywhere. Our defenders were pretty good. Joel had a reasonable game. Goose was brilliant. Some of his marks in the, especially in the last, were outstanding. And I love Justin Clark. He's going to be a star.
Yeah, definitely. Justin Clark and Mays, currently, they're up to the standard of AFL football. They're getting tired sometimes, but, that's going to happen with a player in their first year. But Mays especially, he's just come in and taken the football world by storm. He's taken his opportunity, he's run with it, and he's up to par with other AFL footballers. It's amazing.
And not just that.
Are your thoughts on that, Bert?
Not just that, they're actually really, really good footballers. They're producing some really high-quality football. Like Mays' kick, it'll hit the target 9 out of 10 times, and whenever he gets the ball, he uses it really, really well. And I think when he adds a little bit to his frame, which he already has done, we could play him inside a bit more. I think it'd be a really, really valuable weapon.
Yep, definitely. Kez, what's your thought on Mays?
I think, especially with these younger boys, the effort that they bring and the energy that they're bringing to this side. A lot of the older blokes could have a look at these guys and look at their, dedication and how hard that they're, trying to defend their spots in the team, and they could take a lesson or two.
Yeah, definitely. The older players should take a line out of the younger players' book, definitely. Some of them at least. I must say on the weekend, Zorko was my favourite player. Just the fact that Gold Coast had him and got rid of him, and he went on to kick 3 goals for us, and then, especially with that last goal, he kicked almost in the forward pocket boundary line area, and that split the middle. That was just brilliant. Your thoughts on Zorko's game, Kez?
That last goal was actually, he came and celebrated in front of us, and I've never actually had a player try and gee up like my area of the crowd before. That was just, it felt like that was us stamping our authority on that game. You are the little brother, we are the big brothers. Go back to the Gold Coast, you little so-and-sos, pretty much. That was a really big moment for me.
Yeah, that was a good moment, I must say. Bo, what was your thoughts on Zorko's game?
I thought Zorko obviously was really good, but he gave it back to the Gold Coast players. His first goal, he gave it to Wilkinson. He gave it really good to Wilkinson. And in the last goal, that celebration, that was by far the best celebration I've ever seen. As Kes said, he just gave it to the Gold Coast. Said, "Go back. This is our place. This is our city. This is our state. We're the best here."
Yeah, definitely. I must say that I enjoy currently having the 5 straight over Gold Coast because, unfortunately and inevitably, Gold Coast, when the stars start to shine, will overtake us, I believe. Do you think that's going to happen, Bert?
Yeah, in the end, look, they had the talent. They've got pretty much every piece except for, I think, a really, really good tall forward. But that will come with Tom Lynch in the end. They've just got to get another one, and I think they will overtake us in a few years' time. But hopefully we can stick with them and get a few close wins, and hopefully we can, in the end, be better than them.
Yeah, definitely. What's your thoughts on that, Kez?
I think it's natural when you have two teams that one will eventually eclipse the other, and then the other one will get back, and it will make for a very interesting rivalry in the next couple of years when both teams start standing up, and especially if we get into a final against the Gold Coast, I can imagine that will be really great for football in Queensland.
Oh yeah, definitely. Having a final between the two Brisbane or Queensland sides will bring numbers to the whichever stadium it gets played at. That will be an insane final, I must say. My last point of this round is, who would you give the best on ground performance to? Bert?
For against North or Gold Coast?
Gold Coast.
Oh, Goose. I thought he played the game like he did against St Kilda last year. I think it was around 15 or 16. He was just so rock solid down back. Whenever he'd come in, he'd just send it back. He had 15 marks, and I think every time he got the ball, nearly every time, he was really, really good with it. So I gave him my 5 votes. I'll give him my vote now.
Alright, nice. What about you, Kez?
Oh, it's got to be the big man, Jonathan Brown. He just took that team, said, right, we're in charge. We've got to start acting like we're in charge. Follow me, boys. And he was able to capitalise on all his good work too, and hopefully he can stay this way for the rest of the season, because if he can keep up this form, I think a lot of defenders will be quaking in their boots.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's move on to the next game. We have North Melbourne at the Gabba this weekend. Bert, what's your thoughts on this game?
Really, really crucial game for us because it's against a side that obviously are in a similar area of development with us, that they're missing some key components. But I think we can definitely beat them. Last week I thought they were really, really impressive against Richmond, obviously beating them by 62 points. And I'm a bit nervous about taking all their big forwards with Tarrant, Black and Petrie. I'm a bit nervous about, I presume Goose would take Petrie. I'm a bit nervous about that matchup because I think Petrie does really, really well, and the defenders who probably aren't quite as good as Goose is. I think Petrie will do well. And the midfield, I think it's going to be a really good battle because of Swallow, Bastanak and all the other midfielders they have. And I'm a bit nervous for Rich, who could either get Greenwood or Taylor Hine. That's going to hurt us, I think, if Rich can't have an impact like against Gold Coast he struggled.
Yep, definitely. What about you, Kez?
This is a danger game for us. We tend to have a lot of problems taking on the teams that are around us. We can sometimes pull a rabbit out of the hat against the top teams, and we're starting to look like flat-track bullies against the teams that are below us. But I noticed this last year as well, that the teams that are around us, who are in a similar position to us, we tend to struggle against, and especially North coming off that big win against the Tigers, who are starting to get a bit ahead of themselves. They're going to be very confident coming up to the Gabba.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we just have to go back to the last time we met at Etihad. I know it was earlier in the year, and I know that we were going through a bad stage of form then, but that last game against North, that sends worrying signs down my spine. But what's your thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, I was actually at that game, and that was the first Victorian game I'd gone to for the year. Honestly thought the boys, they were completely complacent against the North Melbourne players. They felt we've done what we can, we've won a NAB Cup, whatever. We're better than them, even though they're around the same area. We're obviously a little bit higher than them. and they just ran the game out. They were a lot harder, and I think, as Keir said, that's a huge issue against sides that are around us, because I feel that we, a lot of the time, get complacent against them, and it really screws us up when we play sides like North. And I think it's really important that we don't get complacent this week. So if we can't, we'll put ourselves in a position to win.
Yep, definitely. Hey, Kez, what's your thoughts on this weekend's game? You were at the last one, weren't you?
Yep, that was my second ever Melbourne game. I foolishly sat down in a section that was filled with North Melbourne supporters. I think I put on about 2 kilos at that game. I was just emotionally eating. I was just like, what happened? Why? Our defenders weren't defending, our midfield was lax, and our forwards were completely out of sorts. That was a really depressing game for me. The worst thing was I sat next to Dane Zorko on the plane back, and that was... You could tell that the whole team were really disgraced with themselves, and they really need to... If they can't win, at least put in a solid effort, any effort, really, compared to last time.
Yeah, definitely. Last time was just appalling, and let's just hope they put in better effort this time. Is it going to come down to whether Boomer Harvey is on his game or not? But
I don't think so. I think obviously it's a team sport, but I don't think Boomer Harvey will be the one to change the game. I think they've got a lot of players who could: Harvey, Swallow, Wells, Zeeble, even Bastanak. But I don't think Boomer Harvey is the one that we really need to worry about. I think it's that midfield group that is a real worry, and going forward, Petrie, Black and Tarrant. That could really hurt us.
Yeah, definitely. They've had a lot of class players. I just remember Boomer Harvey tearing a game apart a few weeks ago, so I was wondering if we were a bit worried about him.
He was quite good against Richmond as well. Just looking at his stats, 2 goals, 127 disposals.
Yeah, definitely. He's a very damaging player. Kez, do you reckon Boomer Harvey's going to be a massive issue?
He can be an issue, especially because he's got the guns behind him in his fellow players, and that's one thing that worries me about us, is that they've got Boomer Harvey and he's got his backup. We've got Jonathan Brown and he don't have much behind him. So yes, we need to be wary of Boomer Harvey, but we've got to be careful we don't focus too much on him and then let the rest of their team run wild.
Yeah, definitely. In my opinion, the turning point of this match will be whether Rich can get on his game or not. What's your thoughts on that, Kez?
Daniel Rich, on his game, he can turn a game on its head. You saw him against the Bulldogs last year. You've seen how far he can kick. But when he's off his game or when he's got a hard tag, he almost disappears. So he really needs to shake that tag. He really needs to stand up. And if he can do that, I reckon we're in with a fighting chance.
Yeah, definitely. But what's your thoughts on Rich?
Absolutely. If Rich isn't playing well, I think it puts the whole team down in the end. I mean, last week against Gold Coast, I think he lifted a little bit in that third quarter. He got maybe 3 or 4 disposals, but as usual with Rich, they were quality disposals. One of them was a goal, and I think it really lifted the boys up. And when he's playing on a hard tag, it's really difficult for us in the middle. And just judging from the North Melbourne game in round 4, I remember he was on the hard tag and no one was supporting him in the middle, I think. And when he's productive in the middle, the whole team is productive really up forward, because they have a linking man in the middle, and Rich is obviously with that really damaging kick can put it forward.
Yeah, definitely. Rich is the player who can take our game by storm, and then he will either throw it at the window or he'll just throw it at the opposition. He is a player that can change it. Yeah, definitely. Well, let's move on now. We have the reserves with Kez.
Yep, we had the Gold Coast at Cooperoo. I do not know what they were thinking making a midday game, because it was very warm out there. I'm not surprised that the game was really poor quality. Our first quarter was putrid. Our second quarter was what saved us. And towards the end of the game, I think players were really tired, and I think they could have, probably looked at that a little bit better, had a look at the forecast or something and said, might be a bit warm today, we might, move it to the morning or something. midday on a hot day is not a good day for a Rezzies at all.
Okay, yeah, I haven't really been watching the reserves much at all this year. I mean, the only really reserves game I've ever watched was the grand final. Can you give us an insight into how the season's going for the reserves?
Well, we've only lost once. If we're not going up against the Gold Coast, which we've done a few times this year, we tend to be just walk all over most teams, which is kind of worrying because we do need to be challenged. Otherwise, these boys aren't going to get themselves in a mindset where they can go into the AFL. Guys like Noel McKeever's had a few good games. Billy Longer, I've been very impressed with. How he didn't get himself killed on Saturday is beyond me. I really like watching Jordan Lyle in the reserves as well. He had some really, really good games. But really, the quality of the reserve sides we're going up against needs to improve in order for us to go forward.
Yeah, that's a fair enough assumption. Any questions for Bert with that reserves, Kez?
You've got anything, Bert? Were you at that game or?
No, I wasn't at that game. Just with the reserve, do they play to a similar structure as they do to the seniors, or do they play to a different structure?
From what I could see, it was very similar structure. But like I said, with the reserves though, it's very easy for us to run over teams, and if we make a mistake or our structures fall apart, we're not really going to notice it because of the quality of opposition, and that doesn't sit well with me at all.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, that's a bit of a reserves take by Kez. Let's move on to the contract and list management talks with Bert.
With the contracts, I think with Rich and Louis signed up, it's really important, but obviously we have Doherty, Billy Longer, Pollock and Karnisis. I think the main four who have been talked about mostly as players who are coming out of contract. Doherty and Billy, I really would expect to stay. I'd be completely shocked if they left, and with Doherty and Billy, we obviously have two really good young players. With Pollock and Karnisis, there's been a bit of talk about them being homesick or wanting more opportunity. I think with Pollock would be losing more than Karnisis, and we both players will be really, really good players down in the future, but obviously we should sign them both up, but it'll come to the end of the year when whether or not they're signed or not. If they're not signed, I think that'll be a real issue for us, and they need to be signed. But from a list management perspective, it's a real worry if we lose both players. But I think Karnisis can provide that third tall forward or on the wing, and Pollock can go off half back, half forward, and on the wing. So I don't think Pollock is probably that missing piece in our midfield, because if him and Mays were to be able to run off the wings, I think we'd become a really damaging midfield with our three R's on ballers.
Okay, yeah, fair assumption. Kez, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's great that the main names that we wanted to sign, Merritt, Leuenberger, Rich and Patfull, they did it in a heartbeat, which I think will be a great example for these young guys, Doherty, Karnisis, Pollock, etc. I'd be sad to lose any of them because they are all very talented youngsters. I think they were talking during the Geelong game, saying that if we want something good, maybe we're going to have to give up something good. And while I don't want to give up any of these players, maybe that might be the way we have to go.
Yeah, it's a fair assumption. I haven't seen much of Karnisis lately, and I might cop a bit of grief for this, but when Pollock plays, I don't see that much with Pollock. I don't know what it is. I don't see a future with him at the Lions, in my perspective. Although I don't really know that much about younger players and that, so that could be just a bit of my talk. What's your thoughts on that?
I felt that as well. Oh, you go.
I've watched Karnisis a bit in the Rezzies, and he seems sometimes when he gets the ball, you know he's got it, and he works really, really hard. Sometimes he does become a little bit invisible, but he does have that work rate there. So I haven't seen, well, with Pollock being injured this year, we haven't been able to see much of him. So hopefully when he comes back from injury, he'll be able to impress us a little bit.
Hey, that's pretty why I haven't seen much of Pollock. Anyway, Bill, what's your thoughts on that?
With Pollock, I think, I remember when last year against Hawthorn, he got subbed off, I think, at three-quarter time with about 6 disposals, but I felt he was invisible at times. I'd have to look at him on the field, but when he did get the ball, he hit up Brownie. I remember I was in the Brisbane cheer squad, and I remember absolutely everybody was just thinking, okay, Pollock thought the ball would be a good disposal, which it was. But his biggest issue is obviously not getting enough of the footy, but I think he plays too close to goal to be able to get enough of the footy, and just based on that, I think he'll be looking, I wouldn't be surprised if he looks for more opportunity, because he's not playing the footy he probably should be playing more in the midfield.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, is that all you really had to talk about with the contract list management?
No, from a list management perspective, do people feel that players like McKeever, Wrigley, Worden, O'Brien, even Polkinghorne could be on the chopping block to get delisted? And Banfield?
I believe Polkinghorne is, in my opinion, I would chuck him on the chopping block. I'm not a big fan of
I don't
Polkinghorne
personally
at
think
all.
it's AFL standard.
Yeah, definitely not. Kez, what's your thought on Polkinghorne?
He wasn't really that prolific against the Gold Coast and the reserves. I worry a bit about him. I mean, he's got the talent. I mean, we've seen what he can do. But whether he can pull it consistently is beyond me. Another one that I'm worried about is McKeever. He had a brilliant game in the reserves. He was pretty good. But translating that into senior football, I think that's where the problem is. And unfortunately, I don't see how they're going to rectify that.
Yeah, as everyone would know on Big Footy, McKeever is probably my biggest pet hate at the Lions. I just cannot see him as an AFL player at all. He's just not as a standard, in my opinion. He gets a ball and he has to think about what he's going to do with it. And then he just stands there and gets tackled pretty much all the time, and I'm sick of it, to be honest. I'm happy he hasn't played much this year. He just does my head in. What's your thoughts on that, Bert?
Yeah, same as you, really, because whenever McKeever does get the ball, I do sort of cringe. Because his kicking style already, just alarm bells from that, but he doesn't go into the right positions, and I've seen teammates actually telling him where to run. So that is, kicking ability isn't good enough. If teammates telling him where to run, I've seen that once or twice, so I haven't seen that more, but that's also a bit of a worry. But athletically, I think he's one of the best at the club for a bloke his size. His endurance is very good, and based on that, I don't think he'll be able to forge himself an AFL career if he's just on his endurance. He needs to have some good footy smarts and be able to kick, which he lacks at the moment. So unless he can change something around in the next 9-10 weeks, I can't see him being an AFL player this time next year.
Yeah, definitely not. Kez, your thoughts on McKeever?
Yeah, like I said, he's been great in the reserves, but I don't think that's translating well at an AFL level. He does have those moments like, oh dear, what do I do? What do I do? I think compared to Hanley, his development hasn't progressed as far as fast, and unfortunately probably won't be part of the Lions' future.
Yep, fair enough. We now move on to player reviews with Bert.
Yeah, so I'll only do Doherty, Harwood and Maloney this week, 1, 2 and 3, and then Pollock, Billy and Josh next week. But with Doherty, I think at times he's not as composed as we've seen him in the reserves highlights and streams, and what we saw in the highlights before he got drafted, which obviously is a small sample size, but I think it's enough to see that Doherty's a really good composed player with a really good kick. And I think as we saw him go play more at AFL level, he's played 7 games now, we saw him become a little bit more composed with the ball, and he'd be a little bit better with his disposal. But I think that's another issue with the NEAFL to the AFL. It's just not good enough, and it takes players like Doherty a while to actually get used to AFL footy. But I think before he got injured, he was playing some good footy, and I think is a part of our 22, and he will be for a long time going forward.
Alright, that fair assumption. Kez, any comment on that?
I like watching Doherty play. He's good fun to watch, and I do hope he can improve. He's one of those players I'm looking forward to improving.
Yeah, Doherty's great to watch. I can't wait to see him improve either. It's going to be a highlight of a career he's going to have, and yeah. Let's move on to your next player.
Yeah, just on Doherty to add a little bit more there, I think his second efforts at time are really, really, really good. I remember against Carlton he had 2-3 really good efforts, but gave away a free kick in the end for I don't know what reason. But now with Ryan Harwood, I think he's taken a step forward again this year like he did last year. He's shown that he's fast, he's got a great kick, and he's, as we know, a bloody hard footballer. I think another player who will be a huge part of our 22 going forward. I think it's just about getting consistency for him, and I think a bit more of midfield time would do wonders for his game and confidence, because he definitely possesses all the attributes to be a good midfielder. And I remember people saying that he lacks awareness, but I personally haven't seen that. I mean, a few times he backed out of packs, moved through packs, and really just smashed through packs against the Gold Coast. And I don't know if that's a Gold Coast lighter body's a little bit lighter, but I think if we put him in the midfield, we'll see him become a really, really high-quality inside player in the mould of potentially Maloney.
Yeah, definitely. Kez, any comments on that?
I love Ryan Harwood. He's starting to become one of my favourites without a doubt. His hardness at the ball, his second efforts I really like, and he just seems to have an absolute tank on him, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he goes forwards. Like I said, he's becoming one of my favourites, and I hope he stays on.
Yep, definitely. Bill, what's your last player?
Brent Maloney. I think he's been better recruit than Zorko in the sense that he's added more to the club, but obviously in trading terms, don't worry about that. But I think he's been really good. He's added a lot. I don't think he's been the clearance player we've been after at times today, but I think he's been the midfielder we've been after, that an A-grade midfielder, I'll say he is, which he is. He's proven he can kick goals as well at times, and he's proven he can stand up at times. That last quarter against Geelong, where he potentially single-handedly lifted us up to win the game. And I think for the next 3-4 years going forward, he's 29 now. He could play real good footy with us and help us progress to finals and further on.
Yeah, definitely. Love Maloney as a player, and he's just brilliant. Kez, any comments on that?
He's added a real presence in our midfield and a real leadership. You know, our midfields can all rally around him, and he's our midfield marshal. And yeah, Melbourne will be kicking themselves at the moment for letting him go.
Yeah, definitely. And now we move on to general discussion with Patful fan Kez.
Okay, I've got a few things I want to go through today. First off, our beloved commentators. There's one thing I cannot stand at a game, and that is when Matthew Campbell and Tony Shaw get together. They did it at the Port Adelaide game last year, and they did it against the Gold Coast. And I don't know which is worse, Matthew Campbell and Tony Shaw, or BT by himself. Some of the commentators we get are just seriously needed a slap upside the head. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes you just feel like turning the commentary off, as I know some people actually do. I personally don't do that because I just find it dull watching the game without commentary. But I have watched one game before through AW, which is much better. But what's your thoughts on that, Bert?
Sometimes I just wonder if they actually watch us play, because they have absolutely no knowledge of our players, and it's really frustrating hearing them say stupid things about our players which are completely untrue, or things that they've done well but isn't true. And I think that can be really frustrating at times, and that's really it. Just their voices as well really pisses me off. That's one thing as well.
Yeah, definitely. What's next on your agenda, Kez?
Okay, we've got Jobe Watson. The Essendon Football Club is really starting to get on my nerves, especially after they booed Angus Moncrief against Port. After they'd gotten all uppity about poor Jobe getting booed. Another thing that really annoyed me is back when they played us, Jonathan Brown, Daniel Merritt, they copped it. Justin Clark was another one who really copped it, and he's just a young kid. They were vicious, and I should know. I was sitting in amongst the Essendon supporters. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. I saw the booing against Job, and part of me was just sort of laughing at the fact, but part of me wasn't, because, well, he is a human being at the same time, but he did agree to taking drugs that were not allowed, and that was sort of part of my decision for just sort of laughing at the fact. But booing our players, obviously as a supporter of the club, I don't like it, but not much you can really do about it. So, Bell, what's your thoughts on this?
I don't actually personally feel sorry for Joe. I mean, he's getting paid real good amount of money to go out every week, and he took the drugs. So just like Lance Armstrong, he should be stripped of his awards, I think. And that's just part of it, because if he agreed to do that as performance enhancing, he should definitely be stripped of the Brownlow.
Yeah, definitely. Should lose a Brownlow. He got that through cheating, essentially.
That being left in limbo thing, he doesn't know. The thing is, we don't know whether he's going to get stripped of his medals. We don't know whether they're going to get suspended. We don't know what's going to happen. And that does make me feel bad for the Essendon supporters and for the Essendon Football Club. But that does not excuse their hypocrisy when it comes to the whole booing issue and how soft they're being because of this whole issue, how defensive they are over it all.
Yeah, definitely. I see where you're coming from with that. What's next on your agenda?
Oh, the umpiring over the weekend. That one against Geelong, where he's kicked at 80 metres and it happens to bounce at a right angle.
Yes.
If he did that deliberately, I want him coming over and teaching our boys how to do that. I mean, imagine, you're facing the wing and you kick it and you can just, slot it through on a right angle kick. If he did that, how do you do that on purpose?
Yeah, just on that note of that game against Essendon and Geelong, usually the games are a cracker, but I have to say that part of me thought that the last 10 minutes was somewhat scripted, especially with the random interchange breach. Then, both times, the same umpire calling that deliberate. Part of me really thought that game, because of the Kennett's curse bullshit, well, you guys might not think it's bullshit, but anyway, I seriously thought that was scripted.
It wasn't just
that, Gus?
It wasn't just the Geelong game either. There are just some of the threes we didn't get. Jonathan Brown getting a nice one in the back of the head. The thing is, I think it's because he didn't fall over and start begging for a tissue that he didn't get anything. And poor Tom Rockcliffe getting bumped off the ball.
Yes.
The thing that gave me the biggest laugh was Matthew Nichols and Ray Chamberlain umpiring together the Carlton-Collingwood game. That was... I just turned it off after I saw that.
Yeah, I saw the Handley bump along with the Rockcliffe one at the same time. I believe it was those two late in the game, I'm pretty sure. I was watching that just waiting for a free kick. It's completely off the ball and deserved a free kick, but we got nothing. That was disgraceful.
Have you come to expect that, though?
To an extent, yes.
Because we're not...
Sorry, you were...
Okay, when we play, I honestly expect to get bad treatment for the umpires. I don't think it's them trying to make us lose. I just think that we're not getting from the umpire. They're just not focusing on us in a way. And it's really frustrating at times.
It doesn't help that we play a really tough style of football in a game that's starting to go soft. So we're seen as, like I said with Jonathan Brown, he didn't go flying to the ground. He actually stayed on his feet, just looked really annoyed, and that's probably why he didn't get free.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there, definitely. It's just, the umpiring has just turned disgraceful. I'm over it personally, but not much we can do about it. And I'm, again, over losing the free kick count week in and week out, as Vossi actually said in the presser this week.
Oh well.
Hey, Kez.
Moving on, Harry O'Brien's issue and Collingwood. Unfortunately, I really do feel for Harry O'Brien. I've had my own problems with mental illness, and it's not a good place to be. But he really needs to go and see a professional, a mental health professional, and get some advice before he decides whether he's going to play on. Collingwood need to get some advice on not only should they be playing him, but his manager as well. I know it's hard when you're in that fuzz, in that negative fuzz, but he's part of a team. He needs to realise that his actions have an effect on the people around him, and he cannot bring his club down while he's in this funk. And I agree with Nathan Buckley, you know. He needs to understand that he's part of a team, he needs to act like it, and if he can't do that, he needs to take himself back and get himself in a position where he can, if he wants to stay a part of this team.
Yeah, definitely. I saw that, and all that went through my head was get it out of the media's face, basically. Like, he needs to do this behind closed doors.
Yeah, the media pressure is not going to help him at all. It's actually going to make things worse. You know, I remember when I was going through my issues, the pressure I was under already from work and from my ex's family was very, that was really bad. I'd hate to think what he's going to go through with all that pressure of being an AFL player. He needs to take a step back.
Yeah, definitely. What's your thoughts on that, Bert?
I think he's not doing himself any favours, as you guys said, by being in the limelight. I think it probably wouldn't do him that bad to have a break like Stevie Milne did, but obviously for a bit longer until he solves his issues, because what he said, sexual abuse, he saw a murder and suicidal thoughts, that's really serious stuff, and if he's going to be able to properly deal with it, it's definitely not going to be in front of the whole of Australia. It's got to be behind closed doors, and he's not doing himself, his teammates, and look, obviously Collingwood supporters any favours. But look, I hope it works out for him, obviously. But I think the best way to do it would be to take leave from the Collingwood Footy Club and figure out his issues.
Yeah, definitely. Would be the best way to do it. Kez, anything else on the general discussion?
One thing that really, really ticks me off, it happens a lot on the Big Footy forums, is spelling of players' names, and a particular player who I happen to be fond of.
Oh,
Ladies
wow.
and gentlemen, there are 2 L's in Patfull. P-A-T-F-U-L-L. 2 L's, people.
And there's no
Yeah.
A in Maloney. It's
Oh,
an O.
Yeah.
when I
That's
saw
the
the
most
A in Maloney,
frustrating.
oh, I actually had a teacher once who was Mahoney, so similar.
Yeah, see where you're going with that. But anyway, I think we'll call this the end of this week's podcast. But any last comments?
No.
Kez?
Oh well, go Lions.
Yeah.
Go Lions.
Alrighty guys, see you later and go the Brisbane Lions.
Thank you.
See ya.